Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. I'm Angel Ito. Brandis Friedman has the evening off. On the show tonight, Illinois is the worst state in the nation for racial wealth equity, according to a recent study. We dig into the why and proposals for how to fix it. Reverend Jesse Jackson era as head of the civil rights organization he created is coming to an end. RENAULT Robinson, co-founder of a historic Black Police Officer Association, has died. We hear about his experience as an officer and organizer. How one program is helping girls with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Auditions for the Chicago Park District's Tip Fest are around the corner. Find out how young performers can try out for a shot at the big stage.
We all have our place in the world. Why not make your place helping young people?
And police officer and organizer Kenneth Griffin offers the last word on planting resources and growing support for youth in his community. And all of that coming up, but our first story tonight, what's behind the racial wealth gap? We'll explore that issue right after this.
Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
In recent decades, Chicago and Illinois have lost a significant portion of their Black population. And while a number of issues have been cited as reasons for Black families to leave Illinois, a recent study suggests financial equity might also be a consideration. Now, the study by consumer finance website Wallet Hub ranked Illinois the worst state in the nation for financial racial equity, using data on employment levels, income, share of executives, and housing to make its assessments. Joining us to talk about how Illinois got to the bottom of that list and what might help address it are AUDRA Wilson, President and CEO of the Shriver Center on Poverty Law, DAMON Jones, Associate Professor at the University of Chicago School of Public Policy, and Lincoln Chandler, Senior Advisor of the Corporate Coalition of Chicago. Thank you all so much for joining us. AUDRA, let's start with you. What would you say is contributing to the racial wealth gap in Illinois, especially compared to other states?
Well, this is not unique to Illinois. Obviously, the study is talking about the unique impact that it's had in Chicago, but the fact of the matter is that the racial wealth gap is something that is talking about 400 years of economic disinvestment and subjugation, racially motivated policies that did not end with slavery. They did not even end with the ending of Jim Crow, which was in the mid-1960s. They still exist today in practice, and that is the reason why we're still suffering. So we're seeing the remnants of racial redlining and not being allowed to get access to home ownership and loans, but now even suffering in communities where you are still seeing a lack of economic investment. You're seeing social determinants of health, so where you live, your zip code is determining basically your health outcomes and your educational outcomes. There is still active discrimination, and that is what continues to contribute to the racial wealth gap that we're experiencing right now.
Damon, we just heard AUDRA list like a number of factors, but I understand that you have a caveat about this particular study. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you think that this study isn't really telling us about the racial wealth gap in Illinois.
Well, it's just that we don't have data specific to Illinois for wealth in particular. We have data for the whole country, and we know that there are huge wealth gaps. The median wealth of a white household is about 10 times as much as a Black household. On average, it's about 8 times as large. And so we can't say specifically in this region what the wealth gap is, but those other measures are all things that are going to be related. And so it's probably the case that the wealth gap is larger here. We probably would do better to collect that data and, be better to assess that.
Now, Lincoln, what role would you say that corporations have in addressing the gap?
Sure. In my view, corporations do a lot of the hiring. They do a lot of the capital investments. So seems implausible to think that we can close this gap without our corporations taking the lead and really being at the forefront of addressing some of these determinants of wealth.
What role do you think that corporations play in kind of closing that gap?
Well, again, I mean, if I think that jobs are a factor, I think about 90% of the hiring done is done by private sector. If it's about private investment, the bulk of that comes again from private dollars versus public dollars. Even when it comes to procurement, the things I'd say something like $1 trillion is the number in my head about what companies spend, but a very small percentage of that spend is with black-owned businesses. So across the board, I think corporations definitely have a role they can play.
Audra, let's go back to you. What role would you say that institutions, government institutions and educational institutions play in helping bridge that gap?
Well, all of these institutions contributed in some way, shape, or form to the gaps that we see today that persist. So whether you're talking about banks, we're talking about corporations, we're talking about government-sanctioned discrimination, which has kept people subjugated financially, each and every one of these institutions is responsible. So we need to be talking about investment, for example, in communities, investment in education. For example, in the city of Chicago, when we're talking about property taxes, that where one lives should not dictate the quality of education that they have, nor should it dictate the quality of health options. So to be able to disentangle these sorts of things, to make sure we're making investments in communities and places where people are most disadvantaged, separate and apart from our usual schemes of property tax and that sort of thing, I think is going to be really important.
So we've talked a little bit about disadvantages, but Damon, can you address the setbacks and how it is harder for black folks to kind of recover from those setbacks as opposed to other interest groups?
Well, wealth is the type of thing that just compounds over your lifetime. The less wealth you start out with, the harder it is to grow that wealth. And then when you have children, you pass it on to the next generation. Those gaps are just going to grow over generations. You see a lot of studies in Chicago, for example, that find that black households they inherit less from their parents, they get less financial support for school and for buying their first home. And then they also are usually supporting other family members more. All those things make it harder to save up and build your own wealth. And then when they're pursuing higher education, they end up with more debt than their white counterparts as well. All of those are going to be headwinds when you're trying to build wealth.
Lincoln, jumping back to you, I know that you've worked with several organizations that are helping to bridge that gap, and you mentioned earlier the importance of job placement, but kind of continuing his point about the long-term impacts, how does job placement and looking at the opportunity, the long-term opportunity it provides, why is that important? Thinking not just giving them a 9 to 5, but room for growth, long-term room for growth.
Sure. So when I say jobs, I think the status quo thinking is, summer job programs and add-ons to the way of doing things. But one of the things we talk about a lot at the coalition is the notion of business unusual. And this is, rather than a pilot, it's about really radically rethinking the way we hire. There's a lot of work that we're looking at in terms of fair chance hiring. It's called second chance, but it's really fair chance hiring because in some cases there was never a first chance. But it's about recognizing the barriers that persist, but are fixable, but it requires real effort and sustained effort. So we're looking beyond, like I said, a one-time thing or a funded pilot, but something that really radically rethinks the way we hire. Yeah.
We're running out of time, but I really want to quickly address the idea of reparations, right? I think everyone here has different viewpoints on the role that can play in closing that gap. Audra, let's start with you. Do you see reparations as a long-term solution? And if not, what do you see that to be?
It's an important step, but we have to understand that if you're not looking at the systems that still exist today, no matter how much money you're giving to an individual, no matter how much money you're investing in a community, if we're not looking at fixing the systems, because again, these systems have been in place from the inception of slavery, then reparations really is meaningless. So that's the context in which we have to think about repairing more in terms of investments and allowing people to be on the pathway now to recover what they have lost over generations.
Absolutely. Damon, thoughts? Damon.
I would say We do want to fix the systems, absolutely, and we also want to have this redress and closure. So for like my father, he's born in 1945 in North Carolina, these long-term solutions are not going to affect him. And reparations is something that can give those people who had to endure racism throughout their lives some closure or some redress for what they went through. So I don't see them as mutually exclusive, and I agree we want to change the systems, but also make some people whole who have lived their lives and been affected by racism.
Well, Lincoln, I'm sorry we're out of time, but I think your point on long-term job placement kind of speaks to that point a little bit. So our thanks to Audra Wilson, Damon Jones, and Lincoln Chandler. Now, civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. announced that he is stepping down from the Rainbow Push Coalition, the Chicago organization he created in 1996. Now, the organization was a merging of Operation Push, which he founded in 1971 to advance black education and economic power in Chicago, and the Rainbow Push Coalition, a national initiative that worked for social programs, voting rights, and affirmative action. Now, the 81-year-old Jackson, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, handed over the day-to-day operations of Rainbow Push last year. Now, he's expected to announce a successor at this weekend's Rainbow Push convention. And young performers and artists, your shot at the stage could be right around the corner. The Chicago Park District is asking the city's youth performers to try out for its 8th annual Tip Fest, where singers, rappers, dancers, and poets ages 14 to 24 can showcase their talents. Now, the Park District says it wants to see all of Chicago's teen artists show up and show out.
We're currently getting ready for our 8th annual Tip Fest, which will be held at Union Park September 30th, where students and teens from everywhere, they're able to come and showcase their talents. Whether you're a poet or you're in a band, or you're a singer, or you're a rapper, or you're just in the arts in general, you have an opportunity to audition in 2 different locations twice this summer to participate in the festival. There's one currently coming this weekend on July 15th, and the second one will be August 25th. At Tip Fest, it's like a real Lollapalooza for teens, essentially. When they come in, you get your ticket, you're walking through. There are different activations there, things that they can interact and participate in, while you, at the same time, watching the festival. People perform on stage. They are rappers, they are singers, they are poets. And they also have different activations within the festival where they're able to showcase their artistic talents. And I think after the pandemic, just to rebrand and rebuild everything, and everybody now may have new talents that they didn't have, I'm eager to see what we're offering, who's coming out to show out. The next celebrity, rapper, singer, artist, whoever, you have that opportunity to showcase for the entire city. It's Chicago. They want to come here. They want to see you.
You'll find more information on how to sign up for auditions on our website. Back with more Chicago Tonight Black Voices right after this. Teen girls are in crisis. That's according to research that found that nearly 40% of girls studied in Chicago high schools are experiencing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. But the University of Chicago's Education Lab says there's a school-based program that's helping. And their study found that participation in youth guidance's Working on Womanhood, or WOW, program led to a 22% decrease in PTSD symptom severity and a 38% decrease in at-risk levels of PTSD. Now, the study also found that participation in the WOW program decreased anxiety about 10% and reduced depression around 14%. Joining us now to talk about WOW are Monica Bott, Senior Research Director at the University of Chicago Education Lab, and NGOZI Harris, Director of Program and Staff Development at WOW. Ladies, thank you both so much for joining us. NGOZI, let's get started with you. Let's kind of get an idea of what are these PTSD symptoms that our young girls are experiencing?
Wow, it's has a lot to do with just when they are in the schools, when they're in their communities, they're just dealing with hypervigilance. They're just really aware of their surroundings, and they're always in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And for some of our girls, it's the fawn mode, where they're just trying to people please, trying to just do whatever they can to survive. So they're trying to please everyone. And most of them are internalizers, where they're holding it in. They're not talking about it. There's no one asking them directly about it, so they're not talking about it. And they're just showing up in the schools, and a lot of times the schools are either saying, oh, she's fine, she's getting good grades, she's showing up, everything's okay. But I've always seen them as the ticking time bombs. They're the ones who are just barely hanging on, and if that one more stressor comes on, they explode. And they explode in different ways, self-harming, they are being aggressive with each other, with themselves, or they're acting out sexually, where they're just trying to get someone to take care of them, so they're people pleasing. And all of that is because it's so diverse, because it's so different from the way our boys and our young men are showing up. No one knows what to do, and they're ignoring. They had been ignoring. When BAM came to be, our schools were saying, what about our girls? What about our girls? And so for a while, we came together, the clinicians that were working at Youth Guidance, and they put together this program to respond to that call and to really see them and really understand what did they need and how to support them.
So Monica, let's talk about WOW and what the girls are experiencing in that program and some of the resources that are helping them.
Sure. So we partnered with Youth Guidance. We've partnered with Youth Guidance, a local nonprofit, for over 10 years. We did a study of the Becoming a Man program, which was for young boys. And in 2017, when the city of Chicago expanded 750 additional spots for young girls, we partnered with Youth Guidance, Chicago Public Schools, and the city of Chicago to set up a randomized control trial so that we know what is it about the Working on Womanhood program that is, one, is it helpful for girls to the same level of rigor that we know in medicine? And so we identified 10 partner schools. We identified 9th through 11th grade girls, almost 95% of the 9th through 11th grade girls that were in those schools. So this is 3,800 girls. And we did a baseline survey in the fall because we didn't really know what the experiences were. On a level of trauma exposure, where we asked about witnessing community violence, witnessing domestic violence, witnessing acts like war, natural disasters, there were 10 questions, and girls on average, these are 15, 16-year-old girls, said yes to 2 of them on average. And these are questions that the general public would probably say no to all 10. And so you see that the sort of external trauma exposure is really high, and those stressors are high. And yet, as NGOZI said, there's a ton of resilience. So the girls in our study had, a B average. They're coming to school all the time. But then when we did this baseline survey of about 370 girls, we saw these rates of 38% of probable PTSD or moderate trauma-related distress, which are twice that of returning Afghani and Iraqi war veterans on the same exact measure. So you can see how that those internalizing behaviors are really strong. The WOW curriculum has components that focus on healthy relationships, self-esteem, self-efficacy, leadership. And when we did a follow-up survey in the spring, we compared girls who were offered the WOW programming compared to all the other status quo services that the school had using a randomized control trial design. We saw these reductions in PTSD and anxiety and depression. And to me, that tells us that we actually don't have to just keep reporting on what the crisis is, but we do have solutions that are homegrown in the city of Chicago that can be implemented, at moderate scale by clinicians in partnership with our school districts to really provide girls with supports to help them with not only some of these symptoms, but also, in the long term, potentially some of the behaviors that they're showing in these externalizing ways.
Now, NGOZI, what would you say that you found based on the methods of work that you all provide for these young girls are the most effective? What are they responding to?
The relationships with the counselors, the relationships with each other, the creating of safe spaces where they get to talk about the things that nobody's asking them about. They get to share how they're experiencing. They get someone to tell them and affirm them that however you own your narrative is how you own your narrative. So you don't have to fit in a box. You can just be you, and you're safe, you're supported. And all of those things together, those experiences, those relationships, they matter and they impact. It's also, you know, we're clinicians, so we're doing the narrative therapy, we're doing the acceptance and commitment therapy and the CBT, but it really is, at that start, it's creating that safe environment with those relationships being with people who are not talking down, but they're partnering with and they're going alongside, that really matter the most. And it's, for me, that's like that key ingredient. That's why we spend so much time really being intentional about the hiring. So we spend so much time really being intentional about how are you also working on your womanhood? How are you staying in the journey? Because you don't arrive anywhere.
Yeah, that's very important, staying in the journey. Well, I'm so sorry. It's all the time that we have. Our thanks to Monica Bott and NGOZI Harris. Now, RENAULT Robinson, co-founder of the Afro-American Patrolmen's League, died on July 8th at the age of 80. And when Robinson became a Chicago police officer in 1964, he found he was one of very few black police officers on the force. He and Officer Edward Buzz Palmer co-founded the Afro-American Patrolmen's League with the goal of improving relations between the police force and the black community, as well as easing racial tensions among officers themselves. Now, his organizing made him the subject of harassment and intimidation by other officers, leading to a federal probe and lawsuit that found the police department did indeed engage in discriminatory practices. Here, Robinson recalls some of his experience in a 1978 interview with Studs Terkel.
They tried their best to drum us off the department, and then tried to, failing to do that, tried to give the organization a bad name in the eyes of the public at large.
What happened to you? You start name a few other things.
Well, we got transferred from the units that myself and my partner worked in. One was sent to one end of the city, I was sent to the other. We were given the worst assignments, or assignments that no one else wanted. And the supervision had gotten to the point where you couldn't breathe without violating a rule. And it went from bad to worse. It was a situation where they tried to make it untenable, because every time the organization took a stand on a human rights issue, anything that the police department did that we thought that was working to its disadvantage, we'd make a statement about it. And every time we made a statement, they retaliated with some form of harassment or punishment.
RENAULT Robinson is survived by his wife of 60 years, Annette Robinson, 4 sons, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, all of whom still live in Chicago. And the relationship between Chicago's black communities and its police force has been strained for much of the city's history. Now, Kenneth Griffin, a Chicago police officer and founder of the nonprofit No Matter What, says changing that will require more and better interaction between police and communities. And he says it's something that's critical to helping youth thrive. Here, Griffin gives the last word on how he says people of all walks of life need to show up to give Chicago's young people the resources and support they deserve.
I'm Kenneth Griffin. I'm the founder of No Matter What. I grew up in Inglewood on the south side of Chicago, and I'm a police officer. And so I recognized a long time ago that a lot of our young people go through stuff that they shouldn't have to go through, but have a will to succeed no matter what they go through. So no matter what, we invest in the youth through job readiness training, mental health healing, and mentorship. There's an opportunities to invest in them and show them that no matter what it is that you're dealing with, no matter what you're going through in life, you can make it. So when I was a kid, there was no connection between myself and the police. Most of the times that I ever came across the police was negative. At the end of the day, that's what's missing between a lot of it, is just the lack of understanding and the ignorance from each side. I tell people all the time that our kids aren't bad. They just haven't met the right people yet. So as a police officer, I have to bridge the gap. I have to show young people that, hey, I'm a police officer, but I love you. So I try to make every interaction I have with young people an amazing interaction. On Juneteenth, the building was gifted to us by the Cook County Land Bank for us to be able to do youth programming out of. So although I'm a police officer, I actually went to school to be a chef. And so on the very top floor of the building, We're going to turn it into a full kitchen where kids can come and learn different culinary programs. We are going to put a first responders room in there because we recognize that our first responders sometimes need a break. So when they're going on break, they can come in here and relax. They can interact with the kids because we truly believe that in order to do better in the community and for things to be better in the community, the police and the community has to come together. We're going to turn the basement into an art center because we recognize that young people love art. Last year over here in Inglewood, we unfortunately lost the Whole Foods. When that closed, we wanted to do something for the community where they can get their produce, their tomatoes, their cucumbers, their watermelon, anything that we can grow out here in the garden, we'll grow it for them. I always say that you show me a kid that terrorizes the community, and I'll take that same kid and show you how the communities terrorize him with lack of resources. And so to be able to be a resource for these young people and give them the exposure that they need to see the world, to be able to do things that they don't get to usually do, it's very fulfilling. We show love to that one kid, and that kid will pass it on to another kid, and that's how we create a chain of love. We all have our place in the world. Why not make your place helping young people? At the end of the day, the community is made up of many different people, many different occupations. Let's bring it all together for our young people so we can heal our community.
And Griffin says he's looking for people with skills that they can share with the teens as they rehab their building to join the mission. Visit our website for more details. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Black Voices, I'm Angelito. I'll see you next time.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.